Welcome to episode 175 of the Half Point Per Podcast. I'm your host, Evan Riggs, joined as always by my co-host, Dalton Willie. If anyone's curious on a little Johnny Pham life update, just saw he won his kickball title tonight, Dalton. I don't know if you have any thoughts on Mr. Pham and his championship.
I was actually the first to congratulate him on his kickball championship.
Are you sure? I also congratulated him.
Yeah, I even explicitly said, let me be the first to congratulate you.
Okay, that yes. Definitely means you were then.
Yeah, so, and those who are interested as well, I will be seeing our lovely former producer, Johnny Pham, starting next Saturday while I take a hiatus from the podcast to be in Japan.
Do you want to just send us that whole itinerary so everybody can keep track of what you guys are doing?
Yeah, 9 days in Tokyo, a couple days in Osaka, some in Kyoto. Airbnb address is 713 Omasakaden Drive, right next to the Golden Guy District.
Is that actually true?
No, I just made up some words.
I was gonna say, if that's true, don't tell me. I get banned from your Twitch chat for typing your name. I can't imagine what Dakota would do if you leaked the address of where you're going to be staying.
Podcast is getting taken off for doxing.
Podcast is getting taken down by Dakota somehow, even though he actually has no power. All right. On that note, we've got a fun one today, Dalton. We are talking bus. I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. Last year, sleepers breakouts, that has a little bit of wiggle room. I mean, this one, if you're on YouTube, the thumbnail pretty much does exactly what we're gonna talk about here. Like, these are guys that we're telling you not to draft. But I will say, like, everybody has a price. So if a guy drops to a certain point, like, there's almost nobody except for guys like at the very end of drafts that I'm gonna tell you, hey, don't draft no matter what. But before we get into that, there's been a lot of NFL news in the last week. Most prominently, Sky Moore is a San Francisco 49er, right? Biggest thing that's happened in the last week. Dalton, I thought I would just, instead of like just teeing up a bunch of topics, I thought I'd just kick it over to you and see if there's anything that has caught your eye in the last week that you want to talk about. I mean, I know your son got the shaft in Indianapolis.
Wow, way to hit it off to me with only the bad things. Yes, Anthony Richardson was not named the starter of the Colts, despite the chagrin of their entire Twitter fan base. I think it's a bad call. I don't think Daniel Jones is really going to do much for them as far as how successful that team's going to be. Daniel Jones might get them to the playoffs, and that's it. If Anthony Richardson is bad, they can draft Archie Manning. So Anthony Richardson news, pretty terrible, pretty sad, especially if you only have one other quarterback in your dynasty league. But at the same time,
you can trade for Bryce Young. He's available.
My boy Eftim Chisholm, who I dropped last week, watched his space yet again. Went really well for the Patriots. He was 5-5, 65 yards.
He got nominated in my extremely deep dynasty auction that I've been keeping you updated about. Didn't bid on him, but I was like, oh, hey, I know that guy. Thanks, Dalton.
No problem. And then we got to talk about Bill, otherwise known as Ja'Cory Crosby Merritt. There's something going on in the Commanders. I will say a few things.
Yeah, so real quick, last week, I think the idea had just kind of started surfacing, like they may be looking to trade Brian Robinson, but it was only the local guys, maybe like one local guy who was saying that, and we were kind of like, like, why would they do that? Like, we're not, like, that's not really something we're paying attention to. Now, there's a lot more smoke. The national guys have all reported it. He not only did not play, was not in the stadium for their preseason game the other day. Like, Dan Quinn is being asked point blank, will Chris Rodriguez replace the short yardage role for Brian Robinson? And he said, yeah. So, like, it just sounds like a guy who will not be on the team.
Which, honestly, Chris Rodriguez is a short yardage guy. Is a little weird to me. What I'm going to say is I've seen Crosby Merritt go all the way up in round 10 in drafts, and I'm not that confident yet. He is 24 years old. He is a late breakout. He did basically miss an entire season of college football. So there's some hang up, and all of his success comes against very minor teams. I liked him in round 15, round 16. Austin Eckler is still there and doing things. Krosky Merritt did get some carries in the third in that game without Brian Robinson. And we still have Chris Rodriguez, who also looked very good. In fact, I was watching the game and Chris Rodriguez had a really long run. And I was like, oh my God, it's happening. It wasn't happening because it wasn't Krosky Merritt. It was Chris Rodriguez.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I actually had it on too because it was like the Monday Night Football booth was calling the game, and I think I was waiting for my sister to get to the house. We go out to eat. I was like, what the heck? I'll flip the Bengals and Commanders on for a few minutes here.
Yeah, but Krosky Merritt did have a good run for a touchdown in that game, but I think 90% of running backs would be expected to make that run with the
Yeah.
blocking that was on it. So I know a lot of people reacted to it really positively, but really I would expect that out of most guys who have any fantasy relevance.
Did you consider him at all for the bust list? I know it's hard because there's not like probably a real ADP number for him yet that we can really go off of. But like, well, I'll just put it this way. If he's being drafted as a top 36 running back, are you in or are you out on that price point?
I'm out. That's
Really?
that's that's too
I
high.
I think I'm in, but I'm not entering my draft with the mindset of like, all right, I gotta make sure I get JCM at this point. Because honestly, like I think probably a lot of drafts he's gonna go earlier.
Yeah, if you're in a sharp league, I think people are taking him for potential upside. If you're in a home league, you can still probably get him really late because he's a rookie with no name value. But all in all, there are still better shots to take. I would still at 36, you're probably skipping one of the Jags backs. I would take any of the Jags backs as my shot there. Um, I don't know where Hubbard is going at this point, but obviously I would take Chuba over him. Zach Charbonnet's in that area, and he's a backup I have more faith in. Uh, yeah,
I mean,
like
Chuba's going way higher, right? Like
oh,
fourth
I
round.
didn't know. I know that the tendency people have with him. So, and like even then, I still like he hasn't got a lot of buzz. I still kind of like the idea of Jarquez Hunter. Trey Benson hasn't looked good, but like something has to give in that Arizona running back room. And
I mean, does it? Yeah, James Conner could just do the same thing again and then get hurt at some point.
well, that's what I'm waiting on.
But
And then like coming down to Houston, I think a lot of people are sleeping on the potential of a Dameon Pierce rise with Joe Mixon in what seems to be the injury hell house. Nick Chubb working his way back from injury. I think Dameon Pierce might have some appeal similar to the same way we're talking about JCM. We've just seen Dameon Pierce be a major failure, and I think people are remembering that.
yeah, I mean that actually kind of that transitions very well into the other side of this equation, and that's Brian Robinson. Um, because I think almost no matter where he goes, I don't know if I want to say he's going to shake up the running back room, like reset it, but he is going to change the landscape of whatever running back room where he lands. He is a good but not great player, but anyone who's trading for him, he's probably unless like for some reason the Eagles are trading for him, or like the Raiders, even if they did, they might probably find some carries for him. But like he's going to have a role wherever he goes. And the Texans are one team that I'm kind of watching for. Like, are they in the Brian Robinson market? Like, what can that tell us about Joe Mixon's health if they are or are not? Because we are not really learning very much otherwise outside of one report that he probably won't be ready for week one, but we really haven't heard anything after that. I mean, we know the Chiefs are calling around on running backs. We don't know if Brian Robinson is one of those guys. Like, does he go to Tennessee? And that tells us something about Tajay Spears. Like, there's just a lot of places, and I don't want to speculate too much further as to where. But just wanted to say, like, hey, if just be aware, like, be on the lookout for Brian Robinson news, and like, if you draft before news, just like pay attention to some of the rumors related to him that may be out there.
Yeah, be a little more wary of the shakier backfields in the NFL because those look like the most prone for it. Like the Saints are looking for him. That I don't think that impacts AK, but like if you were a Devin Neal or a Kendre Miller stan, like that says a lot that they're even in the market right now about how they feel about their depth behind Alvin Kamara.
Yep. Okay, on that note, Dalton, let's move on and talk about the actual meat of the show here. Let's talk about bust, about guys that we are advising people not to draft. I'll start us off because I'm going to do kind of a repeat topic here for myself, and I'll start with Baker Mayfield. I mean, obviously, this was a guy that we debated on the debate show a couple of weeks ago. That was mainly in the context of where he ranked amongst quarterbacks. You know, you have him, I think it was QB 8, if I'm not mistaken. I
Mhm.
7 or 8. I have him 13. His ADP amongst quarterbacks is QB 7, so you're in line with that consensus. I am curious, kind of before I give my Baker Mayfield spiel, how do you feel about his actual ADP, which as a from football guys is 69 overall, so like a mid round pick right now?
Yeah, I mean, I stand pretty firm on. I don't think there's a lot of value when it comes to mid-round picks at quarterback. Uh, we do this pretty often every year where some guys get elevated. I was the same way in CJ Stroud. He was more aggressive last year, but I
I
don't
honestly
like.
don't know if it was more aggressive for Stroud. I think this might be like just as aggressive, to be honest.
Yeah, and I don't like that because like Baker is a medium tier pocket passer who had rushing upside that we're hoping to replicate this season. It's
Yeah.
different from the top five guys who Joe Burrow, premier passer with some of the best weapons. Jalen Hurts has the rushing and tush push upside. I won't bother with the other two in Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. We
Yeah.
know what those guys can do. But Baker, you're taking a lot of bets, and you're taking a lot of bets on an offense that has some uncertain offensive personnel. I like him where I've ranked him requisite to other quarterbacks, but that doesn't mean I would take him that high in a draft.
Yeah, and that's kind of the first point I wanted to make is even just setting aside the quarterback disagreement there. I think honestly, like kind of whoever you have at QB 7 is probably the wrong answer as far as like drafting that guy. Just because like there's a very clear top six. I think for a lot of people, it probably ends with Mahomes at 6, but it is that Burrow, not in this order, but Burrow, Lamar, Josh Allen, um, Mahomes, and Jalen Hurts, and I feel like I maybe missed somebody, but I don't think so. But it's that very clear top 6, and then Baker for a lot of people is kind of the first man up in that next group, and I think I would just rather go cheaper and look for the guy that can have the Baker outlier year later in the draft, as opposed to paying for what Baker did last year. Because a lot of what he did last year, even like he could still be really awesome. Like he might not take a step back just from a real football playing standpoint, but he's going to take a step back from a fantasy standpoint, in my opinion. I mean, this is a guy I talked about this a couple weeks ago, had by far the highest red zone touchdown passing rate of his career. And I actually didn't realize this at the time when I was talking about that. He had a 7.2 touchdown passing percentage last year. Just to put that into some context, Mahomes, his MVP 2018 season was 8.6%. That was obviously the 50 touchdown season. Josh Allen's never been above 6.2. Again, Baker was at 7.2. Lamar Jackson has amazingly done it twice, the two crazy outlier MVP years, 8.6 and 9, but didn't do it back to back. Tom Brady, a guy that played how many years? 21, 22 years. He did it twice better than that number. And one of them was 7.3. The other one was quite a bit higher, but one of them 7.3, so just barely. Aaron, I'm audibling to a pass at the 1 yard line. Rodgers has done it 3 times in his career. Yeah, I said done it because he's not doing it this year. Joe Burrow, never done it. Justin Herbert, not even close, like 2 full percentage points off of it. So the long and short of it is he's just not going to throw the percentage of touchdowns that he did last season. Just not repeatable. And then from a rushing perspective, I mean, he may have some rushing upside, some rushing value. But last year was his first year over 200 rushing yards in a season, and he was almost at 400 rushing yards. So the touchdowns were actually in line with other career years, 3 touchdowns. But just like you look at the yards, those are probably going to tick down. You look at the touchdowns, those are certainly going to tick down. You're just paying for the absolute apex of Baker Mayfield, in my opinion, when you can take guys like a Justin Herbert or, you know, a Jared Goff, who we might disagree on who's going to be better this year, but there's no question Jared Goff is the better value in drafts. Like there's a lot of guys in that range. I never like to take the first guy in a new tier, and I think that's what Baker represents.
Yeah, I do agree with that recommendation on Baker being the first in his tier. That's definitely how I see it as well. Uh, it's tough because with all of those guys in that tier, I don't think, barring major injuries, any of them have a real path forward to outcompeting the quarterbacks that are above them for the most part. It's going to be really hard for any of those guys to put a season up that Hurts or Jackson or Allen could do. Mahomes is kind of in his own middle, like tier 2 for a lot of people, where it's like
Yeah.
we know it's there. We're just, I haven't seen it in 3 years now.
Yeah.
And that one is a little different. Like potentially people might put Mahomes in the same tier as Baker with that, but I
I have
think
a
there's
feeling we may be talking about Mahomes a little bit next week. That's just a hunch.
just a hunch. But yeah, no, I don't disagree with like the potential for Baker's bust. Obviously, I have him higher ranked, but when it comes to like draft strategy, I'm never taking a middling quarterback that high when there's still major names on. I think Kenneth Walker is even in that range that Baker is in.
Yeah, like he's going ahead of Tony Pollard, like Caleb Johnson, who I think people can have different opinions on, but he's a rookie running back who could be very valuable this year. Aaron Jones, Roma Dunze, Chris Olave, Stephon Diggs, like these are all guys who are either going to be flex play or a very key bench player that could turn into a flex play if things break the right way. And I just think that's more valuable than taking the QB7 at that point. All right, Dalton, your first bust.
Yeah, like I said, I felt bad putting him on this list because of news recently, but I kind of stand by it just despite the injury news. I have Devon Achane here.
Okay, so he's on my list. See, I was going to, build up to that one as the last one I talk about. He's the highest ranked, but you're just off the cuff, like, hey, this top 15 pick, bust. All right, let's hear it.
Well, it just felt easy because of the injury news. Obviously, this injury news, he's unlikely to play week 1, it looks like now. But
I would say at least questionable right now.
Yeah.
I've seen varying opinions, and we just don't know enough yet. But it's definitely fair to question whether or not he'll be out there week 1.
yeah, it's important to note that like last season, he had more receptions than Christian McCaffrey's ever had in a season. He led all running backs in receptions, and I don't think that's a repeatable attribute for him. That
Was
was
third on the team in receptions too.
Yes. And that's really because of where that offense was at. It was in a really bad spot for periods of time. He only had 203 carries in 17 games last year, so he's not making up for all of that production. When you combine that with the fact that he dropped from his crazy rookie season of 7.8 yards per carry down to 4.6 yards per carry,
Yeah.
we're seeing the regression that everybody knew was going to happen. But there's a lot more potential for that to even get worse. We talk about them losing their all-star left tackle. The offensive line in Brandon Thorne's rankings comes out at 28th overall. It's not a good offensive line.
And they already had the 6th lowest run blocking grade from PFF last year.
Yeah. You throw in the fact that we're in year 4 of Mike McDaniel. Last year, when Tua was healthy, it looked like offenses were getting the motion figured out. More importantly, it's the same weapons. Like he's going to have to come out with some really brand new schematic things. Not that it can't, but you're betting on that. You're also betting not only on his health, and he's a small guy who had injury concerns coming into it. And we're seeing those concerns come to life, but you're betting on Tua being healthy. Without Tua last year, he averaged 9.7 fantasy points per game. So it's very difficult for me to see a path for him being a top.
Actually, unless I missed one, and maybe I did, because I did. Maybe you found the stat. I did it manually. I have him at 5.85, like half PPR points per game without Tua. Either way, it was a totally different guy with and without Tua. Okay, okay, yeah. So I did find the PPR, and I think it was similar to that. And I was like, oh, I'll go look at the game log and see. It was 18.3 with 5.85 without Tua.
Yeah, those break up, right? I'm 9.8 with 22.6.
And it was 2.5 receptions per game without Tua, 5.75 receptions per game with Tua. And I said he was third on the team. He had like 30 more catches than Jalen Waddle did last year.
Yeah, and you throw in the fact that like that is a product of a very bad offense, and he was manufacturing fantasy points in a way we don't like to see in fantasy, which is when the offense sucks, he was still getting his points just by catching the ball and doing nothing with it.
We like it when it's happening, but as far as like repeatability, it's just not something you can bank on happening year to year. And like to a lesser extent, I mean, Brock Bowers is not on my bust list. Easily could have been, not because I have anything against him, but he's going just so high for a tight end. But that would be pretty much my only Brock Bowers concern, even independent of his ADP. Like, okay, love Bowers, but was this just a really unhealthy offense? I had to throw the ball to him 150 times last year. Now he's going to get a lot of targets because he's great, but now they have a real quarterback. They have a real running back. They have like a real offense. And then in the case of Devon Achan, like there are some other good running backs on the team besides him. So will he lose some of those rushing opportunities to kind of preserve him and keep him healthier? And if that does happen, like what kind of years are Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill going to have? We're ranking like Waddle, I think is we're not like super aggressive on anybody. I say we as in like the ADP, but they are all being ranked as either wide receiver 2 or fringe starter. And if we're gonna say Tua's not in the top 20 quarterbacks, it feels tough for all of those things to happen and for Tua to have that bad of a season.
Yeah, and well, the elephant in the room is like if Tyreek Hill is actually beginning his descent into kind of a mid wide receiver, that really limits the options this offense has, and it gives defenses more capabilities to stack the box, to attribute some of this motion, to put Tyreek Hill on an island and not bracket him, and that makes it a harder path for Achan to get the production he needs. Going back to his rookie season, over the last 2 years, Devon Achan has seen the third lowest stacked box percent of any running back in the NFL.
Mhm.
That's because of how McDaniel runs the offense. To be clear, it's because he motions and there's always movement and he's pulling linebackers out.
And
But
and and also because teams are terrified of Tyreek Hill
yes,
and Jalen Waddle too, but more so Tyreek Hill.
but you take away that Tyreek Hill X factor. Teams can put him in single man coverage and leave him on an island. They can keep the linebackers in the box, and it makes things a lot more difficult. I mean, they're trotting out Darren Waller at tight end. Like Miami is in a desperate situation, and we're like as a fantasy community, people don't seem to be reacting to that with Jalen Waddle's ADP.
Yeah,
Or
like
sorry,
with
Devon
with
Achan's
Achans.
ADP.
Yeah. Like I have him as the RB11. He's going as the RB7. I don't remember where you had him at off the top of my head. So I'm not like catastrophically out on him. I just feel like a lot of the risks that we're talking about here are not really being baked in to his ADP. And I mean, I think you look back at last year, I think he finished as the RB7. So I think that's like the easy argument that people can make is like, well, he did that last year. Like, okay, what's he going to do when the offense is better this year? And I would just say we just don't know kind of what the distribution in the offense is going to look like. Like, he could very well, he's a great player. He could have a couple huge games and he end up the RB6. He could also still do that and let you down because he's so inconsistent. Um, and it's hard to trust in on a week to week basis. And then also there's just the elephant of the room. Like we mentioned the split with and without Tua. I mean, we're punishing guys like Chris Olave and guys like that. Jalen Waddle, heck, even for their own, or in Jalen Waddle's case, his own and his quarterback's injury risks. Like Achan is probably not being punished enough for the potential that Tua could just miss 6 games and that offense looks nothing like itself when he's not out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you just have him around names like Josh Jacobs is below him in ADP. Bucky Irving is below him in
Look at you
ADP.
on the Josh Jacobs bandwagon.
Chase Brown is below him in ADP. Like
You moved by that quickly.
all those guys, I feel more confident in their offenses being productive, even after our recent Bucks conversation we just had. Uh, and all of those guys also get a lion's share of the rushing work, which again, 207 carries for Achan. We're betting on a high efficiency play again, and we're betting on an offense returning to form when nothing has changed except it's gotten worse.
Yeah, and I don't have Tyreek Hill's reception perception in front of me, but I know enough to say that Harmon um, saw not like crazy drop off, but just some concerning slippage to the point of like it may be that we are getting kind of the decline of Tyreek Hill, which would make sense. He's 31. And he's a speed guy. How quickly it goes, no idea. He could be just as good as he was last year. But I think what he kind of said that stuck with me is when guys kind of go from where they were to where he is, like kind of make that progression downward, they don't usually go back up. So
Yeah.
that's something that scares me for this offense as a whole.
He had more kids last year than touchdowns.
Oh,
Think about that. That's an advanced stat.
Oh my god. Okay. On that note, Dalton, that was so that's 2 for me, 1 for you. Give me your second bust.
Yeah, you know what? We're gonna stay with the Bears every week on this podcast because the more I think about it, the more I struggle with it. I talked about this. One of the reasons for my lower Roma Dunze rating than you hmm, was because I had DJ Moore rated a little higher, and I still don't expect that offense to be like a full passing blowout. But I'm putting DJ Moore on here. I can't do it anymore. I had him right in line with ADP. He's going to drop down in my rankings. Couple reasons why. So last season, he complained a lot. Some right. Let me finish the point.
I'm clipping that. I'm clipping that. Where Dalton as DJ Moore was last season, he complained a lot. Bust.
Some for right, some for wrong. But he complained about not like his usage concerns. He led the team in target share. I don't see that being a repeatable thing in the Ben Johnson offense, especially with the level of weapons they have across that lineup. He ranked 76th percentile last year in separation and 59th in route run rate. Like he wasn't as impressive as he has been in years past. And we saw that dip in part because of the passing offense, but he went from 9th in points per game to 28th in fantasy output. He finished the season under 1,000 yards. He had 1.53 yards per route run, which was 60th among wide receivers, and he was 35th in receiving yards per game. Like overall, the stats show a harrowing story of that offense, which I think will get better. But that offense is getting better in part because the coaching staff is going to utilize their weapons and also utilize people who, what's the best way to say this? Don't complain. And Ben Johnson's already made a lot of allusions to DJ Moore's off the field, on the field activities. The Bears front office has come out and openly stated how they were frustrated that he went to the papers after receiving a brand new deal with the Bears. And with the addition of Luther Burden, with what Roma Dunze can offer, there's less pathways for DJ Moore to be as efficient in this offense. And most importantly, somebody in this offense is going to take the hit. And the more and more I look at it, I feel more comfortable about Luther Burden at value and Roma Dunze at value than I do taking DJ Moore this high.
I agree with that.
And that is why I'm going to have to consider him a bust, not just because of coach speak, but because there are underlying concerns with the metrics he put up last year, even on things that don't evaluate the passing offense. He was less effective, which one, that either shows he wasn't trying as hard, and that makes things a little more difficult to parse, or two, he's just seeing a bit of a significant decline. And any guy who comes out and says, I want Tyson Badgett back at quarterback is definitely not right in his mind. So for all those reasons, you are a bust, DJ Moore.
Yeah, I think I'm probably more excited than most people about what Luther Burden could maybe do in this offense this year. I find myself kind of gravitating toward drafting Colston Loveland a lot, kind of at that tight end 12 spot, because why not? The upside is certainly there. I'm definitely bullish on Roma Dunze. I'm not like totally out on DJ Moore like you, but he is the most expensive guy in this offense. And I can definitely see a world where, I mean, number one, this is a very balanced offense where nobody has that like very good to elite type of fantasy season. And number two, I mean, Ben Johnson has been a very no nonsense coach since he's been there, like you said. Kind of shockingly transparently so. We hear a lot when they have a bad practice. That's not usually things that we hear coaches talk about. We've heard a lot of them just like being kicked out of the practice facility, basically like kicked off the field. Not a lot, but like we've heard it some, which is a lot more. Like we don't hear that at all for any other NFL team. So there is definitely a little bit of concern. Like, okay, what's going to happen the first time DJ Moore pouts during a game this year? I will say the one thing that could maybe be a saving grace this year, if they don't add anybody else in this running back room, I don't know what to think about the rookie yet. I also I think Roshan Johnson is just bad.
20 press conferences, Ben Johnson hasn't been asked about it once.
I know DeAndre Swift is there, but we know this song and dance. Like he'll have a fine season, he'll be a top 30 running back. There's going to be meat on the bone. whether they bring in Brian Robinson, which they are a team I'm interested in if they do that, or they leave this room the same, there's going to be room for somebody else to produce out of the backfield. And I say all that to say I am interested by the Bears showing us in clips where things could be filmed by media, DJ Moore out of the backfield a little bit. Not that he's going to be like a pure running back, but if that's another way they can kind of manufacture touches for him, then I am probably a lot more inclined to take him at his price. I don't have him as a bust, but he is also a guy that I've not taken, I don't think yet, and I'm just kind of shying away from him at his price.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at who goes around him. I would actually take Cortland Sutton over him. Devonta Smith, I would definitely take over him.
Yeah, me too.
Zay Flowers is a full 10 spots. So I would take Zay Flowers over him. Even lower, I feel better about Jameson Williams, and I had him ranked pretty low. George Pickens, yeah, but McMillan, I would definitely take over him. There's just some guys I feel a little more confident in than I do with DJ Moore at this point.
Yeah, no, I definitely hear that. Real quickly, I almost forgot. In our news segment, we failed to cover the biggest news of all, Dalton, and that is podcast legend DJ Chark has been cut by the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, do you have any parting thoughts for our guy who, I mean, this not for sure, but this could be it for DJ Chark.
I think what you're about to play will say it all.
Hey, this is somebody you guys don't tend to enjoy. His name's DJ Shark. He's got a family. He's relocated. I'm starting to add personal details to this.
What do you say?
Oh, you had me muted. I couldn't see it.
Yeah, I know you can't see it. That is one blip of doing it on here. Yeah, I gotta give you like a finger.
Oh yeah, no, I was actually talking through your technical difficulties to nobody apparently. So
no, it wasn't a technical difficulty. It was the drop was being played. Okay. You just couldn't see it. I could barely hear you. Don't think others could hear you. It's fine.
Yeah, back to my point, people. This is why having a producer around is helpful.
Yeah, it would be nice to have that, but what can you do, really? Okay, back to the bus. Go to Carolina for this one. I think this is probably going to be an unpopular opinion, not maybe on this show, but just like this would be unpopular in a lot of fantasy circles. I've got Tet McMillan as a bust, Dalton. I mean, he's going wide receiver 24 on Football Guys ADP. I had him when we did our rankings at wide receiver 40. I think, and that was before, like, there's been a lot of positive buzz and some nice preseason games and just continued drumbeat. I think if we were re-ranking, I'd probably bump him up 5-6 spots, like top 36 for sure, I think. That's still a full 10 position spot, like receiver spots off of where he's going, and not to even account for the running back. And like, I like Tet McMillan just fine. I think, like, we put out a video about it the other day. I think the fit between he and Bryce Young is really good. I think he's going to have a good year. I think both those guys are really going to help each other. But like, you look at the guys he's going ahead of, some of the guys that you just mentioned in the last conversation, like Zay Flowers is going behind him. Devonta Smith is going behind him. Calvin Ridley, Jameson Williams, like even George Pickens, Jalen Waddle's another one. Rashee Rice, that one, a little nebulous. No one knows what.
Let's not talk about him.
Travis Hunter is going quite a ways behind him, and that one I find interesting because I would say anybody who does the draft would probably tell you that Travis Hunter was the superior receiver prospect by a decent margin. Not that Tet wasn't a good prospect, but Hunter just a different level. I understand the defense concerns. I also know for all the preseason bros out there, he's been playing all the snaps with Trevor Lawrence at quarterback. So I just find that discrepancy a little bit interesting. Like, I think Tet is going to have some nice moments in fantasy. He's going to be a major real life help for this offense and for Bryce Young. I'm just not sure he's going to hit the ground running as a Drake London, T. Higgins like style X receiver who can get open against press man coverage. Heck, even Drake London, he's been better since he's been moved inside a little bit more often. Like Harmon kind of gave him as opposed to the Drake London really athletic X receiver comp. He gave him more of the Michael Pittman, Cortland Sutton, like kind of tier down athletically. Like I don't know. There's just a lot of guys going ahead of him that I've seen do what we're hoping Tet McMillan does. And I don't know if Tet McMillan has the upside this year that some of those guys do either, because like Devonta Smith, especially Calvin Ridley, like we've seen those guys have elite, borderline elite fantasy seasons, So I think we're paying a little bit too much of a premium for a talented rookie, but still a guy that we have not seen play a real football game in the NFL yet.
Yeah, I mean, I have him at 34, which is 10 spots lower, so I'm close in agreement with you on that. I also ended up ranking Adam Thielen in my top 40, in part because I expect that passing room to spread out amongst their 3 or 4 wide receivers in Thielen, Leggett, and Jalen Coker.
How could you almost forget Jalen Coker?
I was one of the first people to find him. Don't you get me started on this. Look, check the tweet history, February of before he was even drafted.
I think his mom is watching this podcast. You think she still follows?
God, yeah. For those who don't know, Jalen Coker's mom liked one of my tweets. Feel real good about that one. But yeah, I think like what he provides this offense, people are immediately cementing onto his fantasy production, and I don't think that's the correct way to do it. He gives this offense more opportunities, and I would probably argue that over the course of his career, Bryce Young could become an above average quarterback, which is all we really need out of him. But the way he's going to do that is he's going to be a very frustrating component to providing fantasy value. We say it all the time. He's a point guard. He is going to take the quick anticipation throws that are open by the defense. He's not going to throw the tight window balls, which kind of fit some of Tet's frame. He's going to play what the defense gives him to get him up and down the field. And Tet will have his opportunities in that, but I don't think he's ever going to provide like an outsized value on some of these guys. And Tet McMillan is not good enough to do that on his own, in my opinion. And that's why I'm largely in agreement with him being a bust, or at least not being worth a top 24 pick at this point.
Yeah, and like I said, if you're wanting to take your shot on a exciting rookie, like just wait a little bit and draft Travis Hunter and just kind of see what happens. Like he's probably not going to be the number one in his offense. Like I'd say that with 90% certainty, but he could be a really freaking good 1B. And that in that offense that we think will be pretty good this year could be wide receiver 24. Like it could be. And that's the kind of that is where that's like the middle of what Tet McMillan's expected outcome should be if you're taking him at that price.
Well, this is also coming from a coach who, prior to injury, Chris Godwin was paced to be wide receiver 2 and Mike Evans wide receiver 10. Now there's a talent discrepancy in all of that we don't know about Travis Hunter. All signs point to him being incredibly good. And we know BTJ is incredibly good. And we know Trevor Lawrence is a lot like Baker Mayfield, where we're still waiting to see it, but everybody still thinks it's there. Yeah. So you could be getting yourself a pretty good buy low opportunity in Travis Hunter in an offense that could be exciting.
Yep. Okay, Dalton, your third one. Are we on your third?
We are.
Okay.
So I know you said earlier, like, this doesn't matter. Like, we're just saying don't draft to ADP. This one's on here because he's already low in ADP as like a do not draft. Don't do it. Absolutely not. It's Javonte Williams. He's RB 39. So he's pretty low on the totem pole, but I know what you people are doing out there, and it disgusts me. You are looking at this backfield and saying, well, who else? Let me tell you, some of us, hand up, did that last year. And somehow the Denver Broncos found a lot of who else's that were so bad that they're nobodies yet again.
Audric Estime, Jaleel McLaughlin, although I don't think McLaughlin's bad. He's just really small.
Yes, there's a third guy in there too. I don't remember who he was, which says a lot. Last year, Williams was 3.7 yards per carry, and he only had 4 touchdowns on 139 rush attempts. He had 513 rushing yards. Like, he was abysmal.
He was so
Since-
bad that I thought when you said 139, I thought that was going to be his yards for a second, and I would have believed it.
And yeah, I should have lied. And since his ACL injury, like it never got better. In all honesty, I really liked Javonte Williams for a long time. I know you did too.
Yeah.
But he's in Dallas. Like right now, the argument is Miles Sanders is on the roster bubble. There's bad news about Jaden Blue. One, going back to the top of the show, this is a Brian Robinson team if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, but this is one of those weird, Commanders Cowboys. I would be surprised if there was a trade between the two.
Yeah.
But there's also there's Travis Etienne, there's Tank Bigsby, there's maybe Breece Hall. Who knows? There are other guys out there, whether it is by trade or just by free agency. Like, I don't think this will be the Cowboys running back room the entire season.
Yeah. I would not believe it to be either. His missed tackle rate since he tore his ACL dropped by half, which is insane. And there's enough data behind that it's been long enough that there's something that's just not right. Last year, Brian Schottenheimer had 9 games as a play caller. In 3 of those games, a different running back logged to 100 or more offensive snaps over the course of that 7 or 9 game span. He plays with a running back by committee. He's going to play by a running back by committee because of how bad that room is. And there are offensive concerns with Dallas. They have a new coaching staff in Brian Schottenheimer. They didn't hire any forward thinking head coaches. They hired a lot of ho hum middle of the road coaches, which speaks a lot about how Jerry Jones feels about himself. And their offense is really going to center around CeeDee Lamb and probably Pickens. And they've already lost, I don't know which one, and I'm not going to pretend to, one of the Tylers on their offensive line. Yeah. And if that offensive line declines, that was the gamble people were making last year with Rico Dowdle. The offensive line's good. And even then, Rico Dowdle was middling, and I think Rico Dowdle is better than Javonte Williams at this point.
Yeah, so, he rushed for 1,000 yards. I would be floored if Javonte Williams did that this year.
And that's it. I don't even think we can expect a Rico Dowdle season out of him. I think it's going to be a really terrifying committee that's really annoying, and whoever they're putting down at running back is going to be terrible. And is Zeke still on the free market? Because maybe he'll come back.
Yeah, it's depressing in Dallas, and I think I would just rather I don't love Jaden Blue, and I guess Jaden Blue might not love football. Apparently, that's what the rumors were near the beginning of training camp. Those have cooled down a little bit, but I would rather just take him at cost and hope you can get a flex play sometimes, because he's probably going to be a guy that catches the ball a fair amount, than take the plotter Javonte Williams, who's going to get touches, going to be the between the tackles grinder with how they have things set up right now. I don't have interest in that, kind of in the same way. Oh God, I'm trying, it's almost like the LeGarrette Blount seasons, when he didn't score a lot of touchdowns. I was just I'm just not doing that. And that's kind of how I feel about Javonte Williams.
Yeah, Jordan Howard. Yeah.
Jordan Howard. Yeah, that's a great one too.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with you. Who do you have? Is this your 4th?
Yes. So we are to my 4th. I think this is a crossover one, right? You have RJ Harvey?
Yeah, he's my 4th as well.
Okay. So RJ Harvey, I just it's so funny to me. He was, and I know you probably know this, he was the running back 35, I want to say, in Matt Waldman's RSP. This is not the RSP is just rookies, for those of you who don't know. He was the RB35 in the class pre-draft, so before draft capital, destination for other guys, whatever. He's RB22 in redraft the same calendar year, heading in to this season. And I don't know where Matt has ranked him. I actually don't even remember where he ranked him in the post-draft RSP. But I think that pre-draft number is at least a good data point, because it gives me a feel for what somebody who I do think is pretty good at this for the most part. Obviously, everybody has their misses. Just gives me a feel for what he thinks of RJ Harvey as a player, independent of anything else. And this is a guy who Yes, he's very explosive. Yes, he's displayed some pass catching chops. His issue is he's not on the field in a lot of pass catching situations because he only had like 20 receptions the last couple of years. And it's because he's a horrific pass blocker. And if I had to guess, that is probably one of the reasons why Waldman ranked him so low because he's always stressing the importance of that. And I just think like I have him at RB35. So I'm ranking him basically the same overall on running backs as he was ranked in the rookie RSP coming into the season. But I don't know, Dalton. I just think it's foolish to look at a Sean Payton offense and say, yes, I know that this rookie who I've never seen play, who was taken in the late second round, is going to be used enough to be a top 24 running back this year. I just think that's crazy with all of the heartburn that Sean Payton's put us through and how he uses running backs sometimes.
Yeah, well, you just think about the history of Sean Payton. Uh, Reggie Bush wasn't a full-time running back. Alvin Kamara wasn't. Mark Ingram wasn't. Deuce McAllister wasn't. Like his entire career, Sean Payton likes this split backfield approach. So we're already baking in a lot of J.K. Dobbins. You and I both have him ranked inside our top 40, which I think is a bit against the grain. Some
I think
others
I think
might
we
think so.
I think we both have him higher than RJ Harvey by a
Yes.
couple spots too.
And Dobbins does a lot of things right. We've always liked him. He's recovered from his injury better, but he still gets dinged up. But I'm not here to talk about J.K. Dobbins. Uh, like a major problem with RJ Harvey, and this was one of the major dings on pre-draft, is he is a big play guy, but he forces the big play. And it's harder to do that in NFL. The top of the show, I talked about how I think most running backs would have made the Ja'Cory Crosby Merritt touchdown run in the preseason because there was a clear hole and he hit it and he ran. Uh, there have been holes like that in the preseason for RJ Harvey where he's taken the wrong way. I'm not a screenshot bro. I don't screenshot the play on Twitter and say, look, he had this. It's hard in game, but he's showing the same tendencies that he had in college, which is he always wanted to go outside and he always wanted the big play. The Denver Broncos don't need that. Like truthfully, they are an offense that thrived last year on consistency, on getting their downs and letting their defense do the hard work. They're also probably a top 5 offensive line unit in the NFL. So you should take your holes and take your blocks. Going back to your point, his last year in college, he had 20 catches. That's not because he's a bad pass catcher. It's because he gets blown up in pass protection. He did have a catch. Anybody that remembers it in the Baylor game, the crazy UCF play to get them the first down where they end up winning the game against Baylor. But it's neither here nor there. This backfield is also incredibly volatile. Like going back to Jaleel McLaughlin, I like him as a pass catcher, and he would be a really good complement to J.K. Dobbins. Blake Watson is still around here. Talking about Matt Waldman. Yeah. Matt Waldman loved him pre-draft 2 years ago. He was an undrafted free agent out of Memphis. He is another guy who has pass catching drops, but not rushing chops. So if RJ Harvey's competing for the passing down work and losing it out because he's a bad pass blocker, something that doesn't immediately improve itself as you enter the NFL, especially when you already struggled at college, that's already a ding on his profile. He's also just kind of old. I know that's like
he's 24.
Yeah, so is Bill, by the way. It's a bad take just to say that, but like it is a little different when you're a late breakout running back, and also your late breakout coincided with a lot of things you still struggle with. Like there's not a lot of things about his profile that you should like, except he had a really high explosive rate in college. But again, he bounced it outside all the time, and that's something he can't do here in the NFL.
Yeah, and I mean, just talking about the draft capital, because I know like if RJ Harvey went in the 4th round, I guarantee you he would be RB 41 right now, probably. And again, like the J.K. Dobbins of it all, good player, solid player. I think he has great vision. He doesn't have the explosiveness anymore to back that up with 50, 60-yard touchdown runs, but he could get you 5, 6, sometimes 15, 20 yards on a lot of carries because he's got great vision and he still has the short area quickness to make guys miss and the strength to make guys miss. So I still think he's a pretty good player and a guy that coaches like the chain movers. They like the guys that keep you on schedule if you're going to be pretty run heavy. But to the draft capital argument, I looked back at the last 6 drafts at the 2nd and 3rd round, and the reason why I included the 3rd round in this is because RJ Harvey went very late second, to the point where there's a lot of guys that went in the third round who went closer um, to where he did than like Jonathan Taylor for who went very beginning of the second round. I didn't look at all of the stats from these guys' rookie years. I don't want to go through and name everybody, but I'll just like for every Brees Hall or Kenneth Walker, there's Darrington Evans, Daryl Henderson, Alexander Madison, and you think about those guys' rookie
A
years. So
CEH.
a CEH, but even that, he had a fine rookie year, actually probably his best as a pro. Trey Benson, Blake Corum, Marshawn Lloyd to go very recent to last year. So just all that to say, it's hit or miss to just look at draft capital in the second or third round and say, yeah, like this guy's got the draft capital. Like, let's go load it up. He's going to be this every down back. I just like if RJ Harvey had the draft capital backed up with a super like I don't think anybody had him ranked, even the people that liked him. I don't think anybody had him ranked as highly as he went. And maybe we're all wrong and Denver is right, but I'd rather be late to the party than be there too early in this situation.
Yeah. Well, and Sean Payton did the same thing with Marvin Mims. Like he drafted him with his very first pick in Denver. And it was like, yep, Sean Payton never misses on wide receivers. He knows his wide receivers. Yeah, he was ahead of everybody else, but he knew something we didn't. Turns out he didn't.
Yeah. And I mean, last year in the first round, obviously Bo Nix also fits that profile. And so far that one has worked out pretty well. I mean, we'll see long term kind of what happens with that. But just to say, I think we're both pretty out on the price for RJ Harvey this year. Okay, Dalton. I only have one left. Are you down the one left too? Since that was a duplicate.
Down
Okay,
to my last one.
you can give us your last one.
Just keep it on the rookie train. I think this one was obvious from the get go, but it's a Marion Hampton. Like,
See, I thought about him, but I can't say I despise the price tag. But I'll be curious to hear your argument here.
so it's putting him at RB12. He's moved up over the past month, and I know it's because of the Najee Harris news, and I know we're doing that thing again where it's like,
Wait.
who else?
Wait, what's his rank?
He's RB12.
What is this like a best ball ADP?
No, this is Fantasy Pros.
Oh man, that's a lot high. I think I'll double check his ADP on Football Guys. That is too high. To on the record, RB12 is too high.
Oh, sorry, he's 15 now, so he's right below Brees Hall, right above Alvin Kamara.
Well, still that's higher than I have him ranked.
Yeah. And so again, his ADP has gone up over the past month, and it's because of the Najee Harris news, because I think Najee Harris is going to be cosplaying as a pirate on the field with one eye. But he's going to be a rotation back to start. It's important to evaluate what the Chargers did last season. So the Chargers threw the ball at 11.8% clip to their running backs, which was 30th in the NFL. The argument is that Hampton will change that because he's a skill set both Dobbins and Gus Edwards have. Unfortunately, if you look at his time at UNC, he never got more than 40 targets in a single season. They lose Rashawn Slater. The inside of that line was already questionable. They were really a team that's like the inverse of the Chiefs, which was a really good tackle duo and then a really bad interior offensive line. In college, his grades to pass blocker were pretty low. He ranks out in the 20th percentile of pass blocking among qualifying running backs from the 2023 through 24 seasons. And he consistently didn't play on third down with UNC after Drake May left, which is another red flag in his profile. And you just add in that. Sorry, my phone was ringing. You add in the fact that I still think there's some juice between Kamani Vidal and some of the other guys in this backfield to work in between it, and that he wasn't a good gap runner at UNC, which is the scheme that we know Greg Roman likes to run. We've seen him do it consistently in his NFL career, that we're making a lot of assumptions that just because he was drafted highly, he's immediately going to correlate to a hit. I think he could be a top 24 running back, like running back 20 through 24, but taking him like over some established veterans like Alvin Kamara, Kenneth Walker, even Chuba Hubbard, a whole new kind of bubble, David Montgomery, Travion Henderson going significantly lower than him. I think those are all insane ADP values.
Yeah, so I think I have him like RB 18, so he's a couple spots higher. I think I'm probably a little bit higher than you, it sounds like. But I mean, yeah, I think it's just it's going to be we're going to get some kind of split. Like Najee Harris is going to have a role as long as he has two eyes. He's going to have a role in this offense this year because it seems like he lucked out and kind of escaped the worst of it as far as that injury goes. And if he has a role, if it's a 60-40 split, this is going to end up being too high for Marion Hampton for a lot of the other kind of underlying reasons or just the like offensive issues with the Chargers and him as a pass catcher and the O line concerns for them. So yeah, again, probably somebody I'd be shying away with, especially at the RB15 price tag. If he falls a little bit, like in a week or two, if we get more positive Najee Harris steam and he falls a couple spots, then I would probably be okay with it. But
yeah, there's just no world like Bruce Hall's 33 and he's 34. Yeah. There's just no world that should ever be a consideration in clicks for you.
The Breece Hall thing is absurd. Again, probably something we'll address next week, but this just feels like classic. This guy burned me, and I'm mad at him. So I'm ranking him running back 15 because he made me look dumb or made me feel dumb because I drafted him or whatever. And those are like the easiest guys to buy the dip on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Year to year. I mean, that's kind of like Saquon last year on the like that was the easiest buy the dip of all time. There, we do have a question from Kyle Siebert in the chat. Keeper league. Do you keep Josh Allen or Derrick Henry? Henry is a first. Allen is a third in 12-man half PPR. He drafts 10th. He's leaning Josh Allen. Any thoughts, Dalton?
I like Josh Allen in this situation.
Yeah. Says he drafts. So I'm like, I've never done like a straight up keeper league. I either do dynasty or redraft. So if you keep a guy and it's cost you, like you don't draft in the first round, right? Like you take Derrick Henry and that's your 10th overall pick.
Yep.
I think Josh Allen, the third, probably more closely aligns with what I would say his value is than Derrick Henry 10th overall. Like,
yeah,
either one's a good option, but I think Josh Allen's a little bit closer.
Well, and he said it was PPR, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that just makes it's a harder
half PPR.
Well, a little different, but it makes it a little harder for the case for Derrick Henry. I still really like Derrick Henry this season, but we are betting on him being an outlier again, which we keep doing until he doesn't do it. But eventually, it'll happen. Josh Allen, like he'll be a top 3 QB without a doubt.
Yeah, no, I agree. Less risk for sure with Josh Allen. So perhaps something else to like. I don't know how many keepers there are in this league or how your team looks or whatever, but perhaps something to kind of weigh. Okay, my last bust. You know, I'm frankly shocked that this guy. You kept saying you were having a tough time thinking of receivers. I was like, man, I can't believe Dalton isn't throwing DK Metcalf on this list as a bust. He's going wide receiver 21, and he's playing for Arthur Smith, who I actually think like the prototypical X receiver in his offense isn't the worst fit for DK Metcalf, but he has Aaron Rodgers at age 41 or whatever he is throwing him the football this year. And, you know, DK, he and AJ Brown coming out kind of as teammates were on that same plane. And AJ Brown has gone like clear up to top 5, and DK has pretty much stayed the same his entire time in the NFL. Hasn't really gotten better, and actually just had his worst season as a pro from a reception perception standpoint last season. He was 54th percentile against man coverage, 10th percentile against zone coverage, and 76th percentile against press, which is pretty good. And about 80% of his sampled snaps were at the X, so purely outside. That's been his entire career. But basically, like, that was his worst marks against man and zone coverage in his career and reception perception. And this was weeks 1 through 6. So this was before he had the injuries kind of midway through the season that derailed him a little bit. So that zone rate is below guys like Jalen Reagor season, 2019 Devontae Parker, and a couple of Alan Lazard seasons. And Harmon specifically pointed to some bad habits that DK has kind of developed the last couple of years on routes, like drifting on routes that then brings a defender between him and the quarterback in zone coverage, or just his breaks being too rounded on deep curls. And like, there's no reason he should be bad at deep curls, but he is because of his breaks being too rounded. He is, like I said, a good fit in this offense because he will get to run those slants and those digs and those posts, and they'll get him in space. So like, he's not going to be a guy that I think is completely unproductive. I just think at wide receiver 21, given his deficiencies that he's shown the last couple of years, his quarterback, like, you think Aaron Rodgers is putting up for him drifting in zone coverage and throwing a pick because DK led the defender right there? Like, I can foresee issues easily between the two. DK whining about not getting the ball, Rodgers mad about him not being where he's supposed to be. And I think one of the biggest reasons for Garrett Wilson's up and down year last year, Rodgers just wasn't willing to stand in there and let Wilson kind of have a chance to work a little bit downfield. So I am concerned about that aspect of DK Metcalf too. So kind of like A-Chan a little bit, I just see a lot of things that could go wrong that I don't really feel like are being properly priced in here. And a lot of guys around him, like a lot of guys who could be my guys at the receiver position around him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in lockstep with you. I honestly, I think I just glaze over the entire Steelers offense at times because I don't want to do it. So that might be one of my reasons for the blind spot on not even considering him. Like I said a couple weeks ago, there was a practice. Arthur Smith ran 4 or 5 wide, and 4 of them were tight ends. Aaron Rodgers is now at a point in his career where he doesn't want to get hit. I understand it. I'm not 41. I'm 31, and I don't want to get hit by an NFL linebacker, so I can't imagine what it's like at 41. And he's going to take the easy checkdowns as much as possible. DK Metcalf can be frustrating downfield. In fact, I think week 1 last year, Geno Smith had a really good deep throw. It was much debated on Twitter, and it came down to, like, DK just ran the wrong route, and Geno threw a pick because of it. I think they ended up losing that game. You add the personality disorder issues with their quarterback, and there's a high possibility between that and Arthur Smith that DK Metcalf will himself go insane. And you talk about his diet. The guy eats Skittles all the time. Like, I don't know what that gut biome's looking like. But all in all, like, I agree with you. This is an offense that's going to be a disaster to watch in the NFL, and Mike Tomlin's going to somehow will them to the playoffs regardless. And I feel, and this is a trend with all of our busts every year, this is another argument I think a lot of people are doing, who else? And I think that's pretty valid in this pass catching core. But still, if a defense can just bracket DK, who's not a receiver, who really deserves bracket coverage at this point in his career, all game, because the other receivers can't run a route to save their life, and Aaron Rodgers is telling them to run a different route every play, it's just going to be an inefficient offense until they just check down to Jaylen Warren every play, and he is a fantasy RB10.
Jaylen Warren, Pat Freiermuth, Jonnu Smith, like, all guys who I would rather have at cost, to be clear, at cost in this offense, because I just see those guys as all being the Aaron Rodgers, oh crap, I don't want to get hit guys, as opposed to DK, where again, they will dial up some stuff for him in the short game to get him going after the catch, I'm sure. But to be wide receiver 21, I think you're going to need the deep ball to be better than, frankly, I have any reason to expect it will be, given what we've seen from Aaron Rodgers just last year, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Okay, Dalton, on that note, that is going to do it for episode 175 of the Half Point Per Podcast. Give us a follow on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Half Point Per Pod. Subscribe to the YouTube. We appreciate the people watching. We'd appreciate it even more if you'd subscribe to us on YouTube. That is Half Point Per Podcast. The link to all of these things will be in the show notes, as always. The show's available anywhere you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review, and we will be back with a very fun My Guys episode